Well, hello, boys and girls. We are now on math lesson 1.9. This is our last lesson in chapter 1. We are going to be counting patterns within 1,000. And our essential question is, how do you count by ones, fives, tens, and 100s with numbers less than 1,000? So we're going to be doing, this is a 100 number chart. That means it has 100 numbers on it. But we're starting with 401. So these will be all the numbers in the 400s. So first we're going to go to Jesse Bear and see how he handles some of these kinds of problems, counting patterns within 100.
How do you count by ones, fives, tens, and hundreds with numbers less than 1,000?
Hi there, friends! Okana and I are playing a counting game. We're counting by different amounts instead of counting by ones. We're counting by tens. We started with 10 and kept going until we got to bigger numbers. When we got to 190, we got stuck. How do we know what numbers are next? Come on! Let's find out more about counting by tens and other amounts.
This counting chart has some missing numbers. Select the space where 562 should be. "562 is just after 561. Now select where 515 belongs in the chart. As you count by ones, 515 is just after 514. Select where 584 belongs in the chart. "584 is just after 583. Select where 533 belongs in the chart. "533 is just after 532. Think about what the number just before 560 is. Then select the space to show the number. "559 is just before 560. This counting chart shows the numbers from 501 to 600. Think about counting by fives. What digits will change as you count? As you say each number, it is 5 more than the number before it. Drag the numbers to the blanks to continue counting by fives. Then use the check button.
So we have 230, 235, 240. Now we could also think which one of these numbers comes next. Let's try 245 and 5 more, 250, 5 more, 255, 5 more, 260. Let's check that.
You're right! The order for counting by fives is 230, 235, 240, 245, 250, 255, 260. Think about counting by tens. What digits will change as you count? As you say each number, it is 10 more than the number before it. Drag the numbers to the boxes to continue counting by tens. Then click Check.
Do you notice that These numbers are in the hundreds. 300. Each one of these starts with a 3 for 300. So we can think about, this is just like counting by tens. There's a 40, there's 50, there's 60, and what do you think would come next? Something with 70, since we're counting by tens. And then what comes after 70? 380, and then after 80, I see a 90, 370, but after 90, we usually get to 100, but instead of 100, we're in the 300s, so the next 100 is 400. Let's check.
You're right. The order for counting by tens is 340, 350, 360, 370, 380, 390, 400. Think about counting by hundreds. What digits will change as you count? As you say each number, it is 100 more than the number before it. Drag the numbers to the blanks to continue counting by hundreds. Then click Check. Great job! The order for counting by hundreds is 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800. Now try.
Thanks for helping us figure out the next 4 numbers when counting by tens. See you soon!
Now let's look at our math page, and we are on page 45, lesson 1.9. We are in the listen and draw section, and we are going to write the missing numbers in this chart. Now, what do you notice about this chart that's different than the 100 number chart that we were working on yesterday or in our lesson 1.8? What do you think? You can pause the video and talk about it with your class or with your family. Okay, well, what I notice is it doesn't really start with 1. It starts with 401. And that's not 41, that is 401. So all of these numbers start with 400. All of the numbers that I see, they start with a 4 in the hundreds place. So instead of counting 1, we say 401, then what will the next number be? 402. And the way that we write 402 is 402. So let's see if you know how to write some of these numbers. And then we will reveal the numbers together so that you can check your paper and make sure that you're writing the numbers correctly. So when we're ready, we're going to pull this down and check our numbers and see if you were able to write the correct numbers. Here's our first row. So we had 401. Oh, this one's not right. Well, we need to change that one right away. There we go. 402, 403, 404, 405, 406, 407, 408, 409, and 410. Now, why do we have a 0 in the middle of all of these in the first row until we get to 410? Let's see if anyone knows the answer to that question. Okay, if you said that the 0 in each one of these numbers is in the tens place, meaning that there are no tens in any of these numbers, then you were correct. And when we get to 410, we have a 1 in the tens place. So let's look down at the next line. These numbers are all in the teens. So we have 411, 412, 413, 414. And we go all the way down. At the end, we have 420. Now, this is just like counting from 1 to 100. The only difference is that right before the numbers, you have a 4 in the hundreds place. So it's still 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. But there's a 4 at the beginning. So 420, the next number, we are in the 20s, 421, 22, 23, 24, 25, up to 426. Now, when we get to 429, you just think of 29, and the next number will be 30. Now, after 30, we have 31. So it's 431, 432, 433, and all of the 400s. And then from 438, we go to 439. And after 39, we know is 40. So we have 440. And then this row is all the 440s. So after 444, we have 445, 446, 447, 448. On the next line, we ended this line, the 40s line, with 450. So this line starts with 451, 452, 453. And if we keep counting, we'll get to 1,000. And then when we get to the 460s, see how it says 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67. The only difference is that we put a 4 in front to make it in the 400s. We have a 4 in the hundreds place. So after 469, we go to 470, 471, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 478, 479, 480, 481, 482, 483. So you should write 483 all the way to 487, 488, 489, 490. Now we're getting pretty close to the next 100. So I want you to think about when you get to the end of the 400s, it will be 499. What is going to be the number after 499? We're going to jump to the next 100. Now, if you can count by hundreds, 100, 200, 300, 400, what would come next? And that's where we're going to end up as the last number. Look at that. 491, 492, 493, 494, 495, 496, 497, 498, 499, 500. So just keep in mind that when you get to the end of one group of hundreds, you're going to start with a whole new 100. Okay, we'll move that down and go to our math talk. What are the next 3 numbers that follow the counting in this chart? And explain how you know. So we can discuss that right now. And we'll make a little box down here where we can write those 3 numbers. So if we're at 500 and we're counting by ones, what would be the next number? It would be 501, 501. And if you go back to the top, see how that's 401? Well, this would be starting a new hundreds chart. 501, 502, and 503. So make sure that when you're writing numbers in the hundreds, you don't write 501, 502, because that would be in the thousands, and that would not be right. So we have a 5 in the hundreds, 0 tens, and 3 ones. Okay, so now we're going to be going to our next page. On our next page, we are going to model and draw. So counting can be done in different ways. Use patterns to count on. So when we talk about patterns for counting, we're talking about counting by ones as a pattern, counting by fives, counting by tens, counting by hundreds, or even 25s or 50s. Those are all patterns. So our first pattern is to count by fives. That means whatever number we start on, we add 5 to that number and we get to the next number. So 95 plus 5 is 100. And 100 plus 5 is 105. Plus 5 is 110. Plus another 5 is 115. Can you think of what two numbers come next? 95, 100, 105, 110, 115. You just add 5 to each number. So what number do you think comes next? We can write it in. 120. That's right, and after 20. And remember, this is just like counting 5, 10, 15, 20. What would come after 20? Well, it would be 25, but we have 100. So instead of just 25, it's going to be 125. On the next line, we start with 140. So we could count 40, 45, 50, 55, but we have to say 140, 145, 150, 155. Well, what number can you think, if you're counting by fives, would come next after 55? Now, I know if you start at 0, most of you can count by fives all the way to 100. So it would go 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. But since we have 100 there, we have to put 160. So that is how we write 160. And then we add 5 to that, 165. And add 5 to that, we have 170. And in our next pattern, we're going to be counting by tens. So 300, 310, 320. Can you think of what comes next? We have to start with a 3 because it's 300. And then think of 0, 10, 20, 30. So it's 330. Add 10, 340. Add 10, 350. Add 10 to that, 360. So if we start at 300 and we count by tens, we can say 10 numbers and we'll be to the next 100. That would be 400. So here we're starting at 470, 480, 490. So do you know what number comes next after 400, if we're counting by tens, after 490? Well, it's the next 100. Remember when we did the 100 chart on the previous page? After we got to 490, the next 10 is 500. And so add 10 to 500, and it is 510. And add 10 to that, it will be 520. And the last one, can you think of what that would be? It starts with the 500, and it would be 530. So the only difference when we count by tens, when we're in the hundreds, is that we do have to show that 100 number first. So counting by fives, 745, 750, 755. So it's like counting 45, 50, 55. And what would you say next? You would say 60. So instead of just writing 60, we write 760. And then next, what will it be? 765. And then adding 5 to that, 770. And that's how we write 770. And adding 5 to that, 775. So it goes 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75. But these are all in the 700s. So we have to say 745, 750, 755, 760, and so on. Okay, so counting by tens, it looks like we're starting with a 20, and then we have 30, and we have 40. But let's look at the hundreds. It's 520, 530, 540. So what 10 comes after 40? That's right, it's 50. So it's 550. And the next one after 50 is 60. But we have to say the 500 first, so it's 560. Then 570 and 580. So we just counted 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And we all know how to count tens like that. But can we count starting in the hundreds? Still counting by tens, 600, 610. Can you think of what comes next? 620. And we know that 30 would come after 20, so we say 630, 640, 650, 660. And that's how we write numbers that are in the hundreds. And now we're counting by hundreds. So we have 100, 200. I know you can count by hundreds. 300, 400, 500, 600, and 700. But what if we start at 300? 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900. So does anyone know what our next 100 would be? Because we're already at 900. So let's see if we can figure that one out. Well, if you guessed 1,000, it would be 1,000 or 1,000. 900, 1,000 is actually 1,000. Okay, and on to our next page. This one says on your own, so that would be up to your teacher if you can do it on your own, or we can do it together. So pause the video if you're going to be working on your own, and then we will reveal the answers after you work on it on your own. Now, the top part says count by fives, then count by tens, and then count by hundreds. And that is on your own. And then we will do math on the spot together. Okay, so let's correct. We're counting by fives, so we can look at the last two numbers, the tens and the ones, 15, 20, 25, but we want to make sure that we get the 200 because that is first. So from 225, we do 230 because that's adding 5. And then adding 5 more, 235, 240, and 245. Okay, next we have 5, 10. And so we want to start, when we're counting by fives, it would be 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, but we have to start with the 900. So, and let's pick a different color. How about blue? And we'll do 915, 920, 925, 930, 935. And in the next row, we're counting in the 400s. So we have to be sure to put 400, and we're starting at 85. So if you were to count all the way to 85 by fives, what would be the next number? Well, it would be 90. So 490, add 5, 495. Ooh, but when you add 5 to 495, you will get to 500. So that's a tricky one. And then 505 and 510. And those will be our answers. And now we're counting by tens. So I see that if we look at just the last two numbers, the tens and the ones, there's 30, 40, 50. So of course the next number would be 60, but we're counting in the 700s. So we want to make sure that we start with 760, 770, 780, and 790. So we follow the tens right along. On our next line, we're counting in the 100s. So we have 60, 70, and stretch that out. So that our next number will be 180. And then add 10 to that, 190. But since we're in the 90s, we have to jump to the next 100. So that's 200. And then 210, 220. There we go. And on our last line for tens, we are starting out at 50, but it's 850. So let's go to 860, 870, 880, 890. Oh, we're at the 90s. Well, when we get to the 90s, we have to jump to the next 100. So if these are all 800s, what's our next 100? It will be 900. And then our last pattern is counting by hundreds. Okay, so hundreds, actually when we just started a low 100, like 200, this one might be kind of easy. So let's try this one. 200, 300, 400, 500, not 700, 600, 700, 800. So those are the hundreds. It's nice to get up into the hundreds. We're in second grade, so we'll be talking a lot about hundreds, tens and ones. Okay, for math on the spot, okay, we're going to check with the puppets. So let's keep our papers handy while we watch math on the spot, and we can write in the answers with the puppets. So it's going to be the same problem. Martin starts at 300 and counts by fives all the way to 420. What are the last 6 numbers? Martin will say, how can we figure that out? Well, let's find out.
Happy birthday, Professor Rena!
Oh, thank you so much.
I got you a present, too.
You did? Oh, nice of you. Thank you. What is it?
Well, where's the fun in that? You will have to wait to open it until we do our math puzzle.
Okay. Let's get started then.
Oh, great.
Martin starts at the number 300.
Uh-huh.
And he counts by fives to 420.
Wow.
What are the last 6 numbers Martin will say?
I don't know.
Well, how about we list them all, and then we'll figure out what the last 6 numbers are.
That's a really good idea.
Okay, we know he starts at the number 300.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't want to put all that in red. How about we use blue? How's that?
I like blue.
Nice, calm color. 300. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. What is 5 more than 300?
305.
Okay, want to keep counting by fives?
Sure.
300,
305,
310, 320.
320.
15.
Uh-oh.
300. That's okay. That's okay. We caught it.
I
So,
jumped.
310,
10,
315,
320.
320. Good job. 325,
25,
330,
335,
340, 345, 350, 355, 360, 365, 370. Doing good? Do we need a break?
Nope, I'm okay. 375 is next.
That's exactly right. 375, 380, 385. Are you counting with us?
Hope so.
390,
90,
395,
400.
Okay, when are we stopping? It was 420. That's where
that's
we're
right,
going. Okay, so we're at
420.
400. What comes after 400?
405.
405. Then 410.
10, 410.
420.
420. No, 15.
Then 420.
420. We
Well
did it, we
done.
did it,
High
we did
five.
Woo!
Okay, so we need to figure out what the last 6 numbers Martin said.
Right.
Okay, so let's see. Here's one of them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's write those up here.
Okay.
So basically, 395,
95.
400,
Right.
405, 410, 415,
415.
and
and
420.
20.
There it is. Those are the last 6 numbers Martin said.
Oh, good for Martin.
Now there's one more way to figure out the last 6 numbers Martin will say.
How do you do that?
Well, let's clear the screen and take a look. We do know that Martin ended with the number 420.
Mm-hmm.
And we know he counted by fives. So what if we counted backwards by 5? So
Do that?
yes, we can. So we're taking the 420 and we're going to go 5 less than 420.
Okay.
So that's going to be, I'll do the first one for you.
Oh, that'll be a big help.
That's 415. Now notice we normally go in the other direction. 415, 420. But now we're going backwards. From 420 to 415. Can you think of 5 less than 415?
Is it 410?
That 410. Yes, without the word and.
That's
good.
right.
Yeah, 410. Good.
Sometimes I forget that.
I know. That's pretty common. Oh, let's get rid of this little guy over here.
Oh, little scribble bibble.
Hey, a little creeper in there. Where'd he come from?
I don't know.
Okay, now 5 less than 410. What would that be?
405?
Well done. And 5 less than 405?
Well, that's 400.
Yes. And 5 less than 400?
395.
Wow, that was Excellent.
I remembered.
395. Yes. And this makes sense too. Normally when we're counting by fives, we're going to go in the other direction. So let's confirm that this is correct.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Let's make sure. 395, 400, 405, 410, 415, 420. Well done, Joey. Excellent work.
Ah, thank you. So have you guessed what your present is yet?
Oh, I still have no idea. Does it have something to do with counting?
You're very close. Take a look over here.
Okay.
It's a counting crab called Martin.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
Wow.
13,
That's really
14,
great. A counting
15,
crab.
16.
Have a great math day,
17,
everyone.
18.
Okay, so did you write in all the answers? And did you like to count forward or backwards? I wonder which was easier. Well, it's probably easier to count forward, but since you already wrote in the answers, I think I'm going to start maybe backwards. Let's see. So one of the reasons why I would like to count backwards is because I don't want to have to write all of the numbers counting by fives from 300 to 420. So I'll just put 420. And since I know how to subtract, I can put 415. Oops, my 420 went away. 420. Okay, and then I go back. I subtract 5 from that, 410. Oh, now things, well, let me maybe start over on this. Okay, let's try this again, backwards from 420. So this time I just subtract 5 and I have 415. Subtract 5 from that and it's 410. Subtract 5 from that and it's 405, and I subtract 5 from that and we're to 400. Now we have to go down into the 300s because 400 minus 5 is 395. So those are the last 6 numbers when we count from 300 to 420 by fives. And now going to our last page. We're going to do some problem solving and we're going to look for a pattern. Lisa counts by fives. She starts at 120 and stops at 175. Which of these numbers will she say? And circle them. So if you know how to count by fives from 120 to 175, we can circle the numbers as we count. Okay, so if we start at 120 and we stop at 175 and we don't say any more. Okay, so if you see one, we'll circle it as we say it. Okay, 120, 125, 130, 135. Oh, there it is. 140, 145, 150. Well, that one's close, but it's not 150. 155. Oh, there it is. 160, 165, 170, and 175. We don't have that one. Okay, so those 3. Now 151 is not really counting by fives if we start at 120. 200 and 180 are more than 175, so we stopped at 175. For number 15, George counts by tens. He starts at 750 and stops at 830. These kids love to count. Which of these numbers will he say? So we are going to count by tens. I forgot to underline by fives over here. So we're going to count by tens and starting at 750 and stopping at 830. So counting by tens, 750, 760. Oh, there's 760. 770, 780. Oh, there's 780. 790. There's 690. That's too low. Okay, from 790, excuse me, 800, 810, 820. We have to make sure we stop at 830. Well, we're already at 810. And this is 700, 600, 700. So those are all too low. And even though 755 and 795 would have been in our what we call range, they are not counting by tens starting at 750. Okay, very last, we have a little bit of test practice here. See if we can bubble in. Carl counts by hundreds. Which of these shows ways that Carl can count? Choose yes or no. So we are going to choose yes or no, not both. And Carl is counting by hundreds, so we want to underline that. That's important. We're annotating. And which of these shows ways that Carl can count? So that means we have to jump by hundreds. I mean by tens. Excuse me, boys and girls. Carl counts by hundreds. So 100, 110, 120, 130, 140. What pattern do you see there? Do you see counting by hundreds? No, that's counting by tens. So since we said no, we bubble in no on our paper. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. What is that pattern? Is that counting by hundreds? Why, yes, it is. So we bubble in yes. 500, 600, 700, 800, 900. Is that skip counting by hundreds? Well, it sure is, yes. So we bubble in yes. 300, 305, 310, 315, 320. What's that pattern? It couldn't be hundreds because the hundreds stayed the same. You see how the hundreds changed in the two that were counting by hundreds? These did not change by hundreds, so we choose no. Okay, boys and girls, you have now finished your chapter 1 of the very first chapter of 2nd grade math. So I hope you had fun, and now you'll be getting ready for a test. Have fun.